So the VP debate was interesting last night. We are doing this the day after, obviously. Watched the debate, and it went almost exactly how I thought it would go, to be honest. It went exactly how I perceived it to go. We knew what was going to happen. Bottom line, Pence is the better mouthpiece for the Republican Party, the better mouthpiece for the Republican policies than Donald Trump. So it was Pence's plan. It was Pence's whole strategy to go out there and to outline exactly their plan and their policies, because Trump did not do that in the first debate. On the flip side, we knew Kamala Harris. We knew that she would be running basically on the idea that she is female, that she's African American, and that she's the first female African American in this position during this debate. And we knew that she would be taking the same stance as Joe Biden on deflecting all answers for virtually every policy that they have, and just hoping that the Republicans would, kind of self-destruct. So that's what happened in the debate, and it was much more of a debate, a presidential debate or a vice whatever, than the Trump Biden one. This was much more of you talk, I talk, you talk, I talk, and both dodged questions. I thought Kamala Harris honestly did a pretty bad job, and I would not say I'm biased. I was just watching. I didn't go into it saying Pence is going to dominate. I didn't go into it thinking that Harris was going to be terrible, but she wasn't great. And it's hard to be great in a debate like this whenever you're not going to really say anything. And whether that's her call or whether that's her party's call, but she has in the past kind of flip-flopped on things. She's flip-flopped on the Green New Deal. She's flip-flopped on socialized health care. So I'm not surprised that she didn't come out and just lay everything out there. Certainly she wasn't going to after Biden didn't. What I didn't like about Kamala Harris was I didn't like how she seemed to be switching back and forth between like this weird fake outrage. Like she'd always be like, excuse me, sir, I'm talking. She always kind of had that tone to her. And if she wasn't doing that, she was doing this kind of fake sincerity, like during the Breonna Taylor comments. She was always the first to say something like, all right, fine. You want to talk about packing the Senate? Fine, let's talk about packing the Senate. And then she would just not say anything at all. She seemed kind of prickly at times, but again, it's different to be defensive, or it's different to be aggressive or whatever. But she seemed to be doing it just to do it and to kind of put that out there. And I just thought that was weak. I don't think she did bad per se, but I don't think she did that well. Pence, I think Pence dodged a lot of questions as well, but Pence did a much better job of outlining what their party's going to do. In my opinion, in debates or elections, in this situation, we know what Pence and Trump are going to do. They've done it for 4 years. So they don't have the challenge of outlining exactly what they're going to do, because we have 4 years of evidence of what they have already done. So in my opinion, it is up to the challengers here of Biden and Harris to tell us what their 4 years is going to look like. And when it comes to things like packing the Senate, the Green New Deal, socialized health care, we have no clue. We can guess, but we really don't know. I mean, it's hard for me if I was someone who had no clue who I was going to vote for in November. It'd be hard for me to vote for Biden and Harris because I don't know what I'm voting for. Unless you are voting strictly on the idea that you don't like Pence and you don't like Trump, what are you voting for? I mean, this seems like it's a pretty polarized thing, and they are not taking a chance in giving any actual policy. And I think that's kind of dangerous. What I really want to talk about here is more about the perception of the debate and the reviews of the debate. So afterwards, I hung around and watched some Fox News, watched some CNN. I like to get both sides of things. Then I checked Twitter. And before the debate started, I told some friends of mine, I said, look, this is what's going to happen. After the debate, you're going to hear about how Pence was a sexist. You're going to hear about how Kamala had to deal with, misogynistic stuff. You're going to hear a lot of memes, see a lot of memes, and that's about it. Now, I certainly didn't see the fly coming, but the fly is dominating the entire landscape of the debate. But what I thought was really interesting was on CNN immediately after the debate, within probably 10 minutes, I would say, they were harping on the fact that Kamala Harris was forced into the role that many women are in America, where she was forced to get railroaded or just run over by Pence, the man, and she had to be polite because an aggressive woman is not perceived well by the public. What a weird stance to take. What a weird thing to do. It felt weird that they would say, in this world of equality, in this world, we've seen women on the debate stage before. Between Sarah Palin, this is not something we've never seen before. And for them to immediately go to, oh, well, she just had to be a woman, so, what can you expect? And then it comes out that she actually talked more. She actually spoke longer than Pence. So it was like this knee-jerk reaction, break the emergency glass kind of take of which wasn't true at all. She didn't get railroaded. She wasn't interrupted all the time. She got not only a chance to speak, but she spoke more than Pence. So even the media, it's like you can just feel, and I think it's just this day and age, and I think it's just the way, the world that we live in, but you could feel that even the media didn't care enough or didn't put forth enough effort to even adequately review the debate. They were just too worried about playing the same old tropes. They were too busy playing the same old gender issues or race issues or whatever, and they never. It's almost like they reviewed the debate without even watching it. They talked about, and by they I mean CNN. They talked about how the moderator allowed Pence to go minutes and minutes over and didn't allow Harris to respond, all sort of stuff. And it's just crazy to hear that when you see that was complete falsehood. A complete false narrative 10 minutes after the debate by the channel that the debate was being put on by. It's crazy. I just don't get it. And, they weren't talking about the debate whatsoever. They were talking more about the optics of Kamala Harris and, the African-American woman and what she had to go through during the debate, and Pence as this domineering white male. And honestly, man, it just really reinforces how big of a joke this whole thing is. Reinforces that even the media, even CNN, even Fox News, even MSNBC, even whoever, they really just don't care very much about the actual debate itself. They don't really care about the actual policies. They don't care about the actual politics, and they're just playing a part. It's like a TV show, man. It really is. It's like they're playing roles, and they're just reading their script and going forward and moving on. And you wonder how much stuff was orchestrated. Like Kamala Harris made a face that is now being put on memes with Khaleesi from Game of Thrones and Thor from the Avengers, and of course the Fly and all that stuff. And it's like all these things are being moved around, and all these things are being used, and all these things are being hot topics. And the last thing anyone's talking about is what they were actually saying. No one cares what they were saying. No one cares that Kamala Harris straight up would not answer that about are they going to pack the Supreme Court? Something that hasn't been done in 150 years, something that is a really big deal. Just denied to answer it. No one's talking about how Pence just completely ignored any questions about why the United States has such a high death rate with COVID. I understand that this is politics. I understand that dodging questions or whatever is part of it, but it's more of the reaction or more of the recaps where that's the last thing anyone's talking about. You've probably heard about the Fly. You've probably seen the memes. You've probably done all that, but that's it. You don't really know anything about. There's nothing else. There's no substance at all. This was way better than the presidential debate. I think everyone expected that. These are politicians. This wasn't a shouting match. This was much more of what we expected. But it still is kind of crazy that sometimes Kamala Harris would say stuff and she'd be like, my character and my career is being talked down to here, and I'm not going to have that. It's like, what? This is a debate. That's exactly what happens. On CNN afterwards, I think it was Van Jones. He was talking about how Kamala Harris was dealing with stuff that you'd never seen people deal with before, and Pence was being he was mansplaining. That's what he said. He was mansplaining and all this stuff. It's like, are you talking about a debate? What do you mean? What do you mean he was? How can you mansplain during a debate? I don't get that. I mean, it's just really is disappointing. I guess it's not surprising. I mean, it's not surprising from CNN or Fox News or whoever to be completely blind, completely biased towards the entire thing. But it's just more and more disappointing to see. Like, you could see that they had their talking points, CNN and Fox News. You can see that they were like, all right, we're on the CNN side, we've got to talk about how Kamala's a woman. We got to talk about how Pence was mansplaining. We got to talk about how, she was. At one point, Van Jones was explaining to Rick Santorum that Kamala Harris, this was the narrative. Kamala Harris was not talking as much as Pence. Kamala Harris was letting Pence talk and letting Pence dominate the airtime because she didn't want to come off as an aggressive African-American woman, because of aggressive African-American women is a stereotype and it would hurt her image. And it's like, what? You think she went into the debate saying, oh man, I have to let this guy mansplain to me. I have to let this guy dominate the air, because if I don't, people are going to think I'm an aggressive African-American woman. What are you talking about? And then it comes out that she talked more. So it's like, Van Jones. I mean, honestly, I really don't know if they watched the debate. I really doubt it. They probably just sat back in the back, did whatever they had to do, and said, oh, the debate's over? Okay, well, I have my talking points here. I already know what I'm going to say, so let me go ahead and say them. It's just rough, man. But, I mean, as far as the debate, I don't think it really changed anything. I don't think it did much of anything. If I was scoring these two, I would score Pence at like a 7. I would score Harris at like a 5. I don't think either one of them did anything wrong. I think they kind of missed some opportunities. I think Harris missed some opportunities to push Pence, especially on COVID, things like that. She really slowed down at the end. I mean, she just went to full-on like defensive Philly shell, defensive tactics, where towards the end of the debate, she was just not flat out not answering anything. And it looked weird for her when she, like, the weirdest answer I thought was the whole the Supreme Court thing. Whenever she was like, all right, fine, this is like exactly what she said. She was like, fine, you want to talk about packing the Supreme Court? You want to talk about packing the Supreme Court? And then Pence said something. She was like, I'm trying to answer you. And then Pence was like, okay, go ahead, sure. And then she's like, immediately she goes, how come Donald Trump doesn't have this many African Americans as court justices? It's like, wait, what? Like, she took the ultimate, it was almost like a episode of Dragon Ball Z or something, where, she spent the whole episode leading up to the big climax, and then we got to the climax, and she just veered off into a different thing. She built up like, I'm going to answer it, and then it came time to answer it, and she just completely veered off. And she talked for like 2 minutes, and then Pence was like, let it be shown she didn't answer the question. So it felt like the song and dance that we saw all night was Harris would take most of her 2 minutes saying she was going to answer the question, and then didn't answer the question. And then Pence would just kind of spend 2 minutes kind of dodging the question and just saying whatever he wanted to say. I would give Pence the better rating for the debate, because I think he did a better job of outlining the actual plans of what they were going to do in their actual party, whereas Harris didn't do that at all. So I deduct points for that. I also deduct points for her kind of false angst, or false kind of prickly persona. Knocked back a little bit of points for that. I think she did okay, because she did what she had to do for her party, as far as like really put forth the whole narrative that she's a woman, she's an African American. Did all that stuff. She did well during the COVID stuff. She didn't do anything to harm Biden or the ticket. So for that, I'll give her a 5. So final grades: Pence is a 7 for this one. Harris is a 5. I thought Harris could have been a lot better, but in the grand scheme of things, I would highly doubt this debate swayed any votes whatsoever. This was more of just something that happened, but Pence definitely smoothed over any problems that Trump had with his own party. I mean, I talked to a lot of Republicans who, after the Trump debate, were like, I don't know if I can vote for this guy. I think Pence came back and reassured the party enough to where they won't lose voters there. So that's my final grades for this.